We're in hard times and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
The Christian Star began as a newspaper whose news focus of interest was of Christians, but it's become a lot more than that, covering issues of concerns to our community, covering issues of national, state, local, and political agendas that affect us today. The Christian Star is available free at any 7-Eleven store. So pick up your copy of the Christian Star Bilingual free at 7-Eleven today.
¿Necesitas un abogado? Detente. No contrates un abogado simplemente por haberlo visto en un anuncio comercial. Lawyers Consumer Directory te ofrece la solución para todo tipo de problemas legales, tales como inmigración, bancarrota, divorcios, entre otros. Y hasta te ayuda a cómo contratar un abogado. No te rompa la cabeza buscando la solución cuando la tienes en tus manos. Adquiérelo gratis, sí, absolutamente gratis en cualquier 7-Eleven.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1,000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que en la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.
Welcome back. I'm Jose Miranda. This is Hispanic Speak Out. We're here every week, same time, same channel, 9:30s on Bright House. As we're just following up after Sandy Adams, of course. And my guest at this time is Ingrid Figueroa, who is an advocate for children's services, of course, and associated with mental health. Good evening. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
Good, not too bad. Tell me, we have a lot of things going on in Orange County, actually across the United States, regarding children. And homelessness, hunger, education pieces and stuff like that. How are you in your advocacy helping to amend these kind of things?
Well, I think it's really important to understand the problem. One of the biggest issues is people do not want to look at these issues, and they're very serious. We have an amount of children that are homeless, and I think people are oblivious about what's going on within their community. We have worked very hard in the past teaching our communities, making sure that they understand the significance of children's issues, mental health issues, families who are stressed, traumatic experience. So we try to educate the community and let them know what is going on. We can't hide these issues anymore.
You've been hiding them forever.
We've been hiding them forever.
Okay, so what makes
people go like this?
Okay.
They don't want to talk about it.
It's almost like a silent epidemic.
Absolutely.
Is this an ethnic thing? Is this across the board? When we say poor people or people that go hungry, we normally associate that with African Americans, Latinos, and whites to some extent. Is that the culture of it? Is there a mixture, or is it more one-sided?
Actually, I think there's a big mixture. Obviously, we have a percentage of Hispanic children who are homeless, but I think the issue is all over the country. I mean, with the economical impact and all the issues that we're losing homes, you know, the families don't have that foundation that they used to have in the past. So everyone is affected by these issues at this point.
Hispanics have a strong community. It's coming from Puerto Rico, for example, and some parts of the United States are very strong. Our families grow to take care of each other. What has happened to that? Why is it broken down that we are not helping the children as we should?
I don't know. I'm not.
Or is it a cultural thing?
I'm not really sure. I grew up in Puerto Rico all my life, and I think it was the community was responsible for me to being raised. Here, people are so worried about their jobs, about living, and really don't pay attention to children that are in the community and playing by themselves. The majority of the parents are working 2 jobs. These kids are being supervised by other kids. So I think that's a big issue in our community. Like I said, I grew up in Puerto Rico. The neighbor knew at what time I came in from school, and if I didn't come at that time, my mother would receive a call saying, I haven't seen your daughter. This doesn't happen here. I don't think people have the same commitment to children in the community, and I think that issue has to do, too, with how people respond to other issues.
Is this a lack of assimilation, or because we've assimilated to the American way that culturally speaking, we failed our youth?
Well, I think that once we move, bringing here your children and growing up is a whole different ballgame. Culturally, it's really a shock because you're dealing with 2 cultures and you want to blend the 2 cultures, and sometimes it's really difficult. So I think people choose to become a little bit more detached because they are facing a different culture and different values, different traditions. In my house, we have always tried very, very hard to have a strong cultural combination of what we have. So I have raised my kids to be, to honor both culture because we belong here.
How do we turn this thing around? I mean, we have a mental health issue here, which that means we're going to put kids on drugs or medication, perhaps, to combat some of these things. Should we be feeding them medicine instead of feeding them love and kindness or food and shelter?
All right. This is, as a social worker, I've been a social worker for 30 years, and I know that, honestly, I believe that when a child is diagnosed appropriately with the appropriate medication, it's going to be very effective. But at the same time, the child needs to be in therapy. I don't believe in parents that take kids to a pediatrician and give them medication and they don't know anything else, because it doesn't work like that. Children are lacking a lot of things these days. They're lacking supervision, they're lacking love, they're lacking these family events that we have. And it's a shame because everybody has different issues. I mean, unemployment is hard. If you have a child, I went to a conference one time where they were saying parents need to read to children. How can I sit there and read to a child when I know I'm losing my home? Okay, let's read about foreclosure, honey. It doesn't work that way. Right. So I think that we have to re-educate, and we need to make sure that everybody is involved in this issue.
Now, when you say re-educate, are we talking about the parents, or are we talking about the people who are providing the services?
I'm talking about everyone. Okay, this is a community effort. Right. This is a community effort. Everybody needs to know.
Because in some instances, some people consider it just a job, so they quit at 5.
Yeah.
So
not all of us do that.
Is that okay? That's my question.
Not all of us
do that.
So
do you teach people to go beyond 5 o'clock? Do you teach them to care, to give?
Actually, we have cases sometimes that someone walks at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. We're not going to close the doors because there's a person in need, and I think that's the position that we all need to take. Right. We need to be responsible for what goes on. We need to be responsible for that child that is unsupervised, because if he's unsupervised, he's going to go break your windows because he's bored. He has nothing else to do. I think the word mentor, in the past, we all had someone that we totally admired. I think we're lacking some of those wonderful champions out there.
So we're talking about volunteerism in some
absolutely.
aspect. Okay. But what about the funding? Where's the money coming to help these kids? Is funding coming, and who's responsible for that funding?
The funding is a real issue for this area, and we haven't had a lot of increases in funding. So I think that's a big challenge when you
Where's
have
the funding
children.
come from?
We have state funding and other places, but parents don't have insurance. There's
millions of kids. Is the state providing these funds for you, or not? Have they cut back?
We haven't had an increase in funding for a long time. Okay. So.
What do we do? How do we change that? Who do we call? Who do we
I think that it's important
to get the kids to save our children, our future?
One day I went to an incredible, it was a commissioner's speak out program, and they were saying we don't scream loud enough when we ask for things. I come from Puerto Rico and from New York, and in New York, every time we went there, and we're like, okay, we want this, we want that. But it was interesting to me to hear him say, we are not loud enough when we ask for requests for money or for any other services for our children and our community. And the other issue is like we wait until legislation time comes so we can run and we go and start asking for, oh, please help me with this issue. Yeah, we are not consistent with what we do all year round.
We have about a minute left. Tell us how to reach you or that you can direct us to help you out. What's going on?
You can call me at my office. Actually, I will give you 407-317-7512. And we usually, if you need any assistance, there's help for parents. Again, it's re-educating people, understanding that they need the services available. And that not every child that is out there is a bad kid. We have to lose that stereotype that all the kids out there in the street are hanging out and they're in trouble.
You have a number of children involved? Are we talking thousands? Are we talking millions? Are we talking about 5? What are we talking about?
We're talking about many kids in different communities. And one of the things that is very important in every county, the issues are very different than like Osceola County has different issues than Seminole and Orange County. So it's about getting involved and volunteer your time and, you know, try to work as a team. It's a team effort.
Okay. If you have about 30 seconds, what do you want us to know specifically how we can help?
What I want you guys to know is that there is a need out in the community and that we can take action and that we can work together as a team. It doesn't take only one person to fix this. You know, this is an ongoing problem and it's a growing problem. So we need to tackle these issues and really work as a team. All these organizations that claim that they work together, we need to really, truly work together and stop saying that we work together. Actions speak louder than words. And that's what we need to do, unite ourselves, and mostly in the Hispanic community. So,
I want to thank you for joining us, and we will continue to follow up with you and see what we can do to help out.
Great.
And close the gap here. I'm Jose Miranda. This is Hispanic Speak Out. We'll be back.
We're in hard times and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
The Christian Star began as a newspaper whose news focus of interest was of Christians, but it's become a lot more than that, covering issues of concerns to our community, covering issues of national, state, local, and political agendas that affect us today. The Christian Star is available free at any 7-Eleven store. So pick up your copy of the Christian Star Bilingual free at 7-Eleven today.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1,000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que en la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.
¿Necesitas un abogado? Detente. No contrates un abogado simplemente por haberlo visto en un anuncio comercial. Lawyers Consumer Directory te ofrece la solución para todo tipo de problemas legales, tales como inmigración, bancarrota, divorcios, entre otros. Y hasta te ayuda a cómo contratar un abogado. No te rompa la cabeza buscando la solución cuando la tienes en tus manos. Adquiérelo gratis, sí, absolutamente gratis en cualquier 7-Eleven.
Welcome back. I'm Jose Miranda. This is Hispanic Speak Out, brought to you again every Tuesday nights at 9:30, Channel 49, Bright House TV. We've been here for about 13 years and change. So this segment, I'm being joined by our illustrious co-host, Ms. Chauncey, and of course she's also a contributor to the show. And you have been away. You have been out in Washington. So what's going on out there?
Yeah, I was up in Washington, D.C. We were doing a little protest, collectively across the United States.
Okay.
And the whole idea was to march to the Department of Justice and yell out to Eric Holder. I'm not sure if he heard us or not, but yeah, it was quite an experience. It really shows you the humanity when people come together and they really fight for a cause. Never understood that because it was my first time.
Okay.
But it basically was homeowners that are pretty angry that these banks have gotten away with a lot of criminal activity that was investigated and put on paper, and it was done. And where Eric Holder comes out and says, the banks are too big to prosecute. How can you be the head of Department of Justice and on, March 3rd make a statement that they're just too big to prosecute?
Is he right? Can they be prosecuted?
Well, maybe he is right. Maybe they do have too much power and control, and I'm assuming
when they said they're too big, are we talking about it's hard to reach the individuals to pick out a individual to prosecute?
I think the term was they've got too much money. I think they really have a lot of power and money. For an example, one of the things they were being investigated for was the money laundering and supplying money for Islamic terrorists to buy weapons. And who are they coming after? Probably. They don't like Americans, right? Here they find out through 3 major lenders that this is happening. Okay. Do we consider that legal behavior when you're laundering money? I mean, let's face it. And you mean to tell me the executives of HSBC or Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase had no knowledge that this was happening? I find that hard to believe.
So we have all these banks, and pretty much I would say it sounds like in collusion with each other to make a profit using the mortgages of you and I and everybody else, and leverage that into some kind of financial.
Well, it started with predatory lending. I mean, let's go way back when one thing that I really respect about Senator Elizabeth Warren, and I've been following her quite a bit, and you and I were talking about that just a moment ago. What I respect about her, and one thing it makes so clear now, is that really the American people buying these no stated docs and interest-only loans, and we were gambling on this market. Right. And in reality, it was just making investors and these trusts and these bank executives or banks making high record profits across the board. Right. And they're still making high record profits. Even when our economy somewhat went belly up, they are making more money than they've ever made in the history of the financing banking institutions. And we've bailed them out through TARP. To me, it just doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. So the accountability and what we were fighting for, or what we were wanting them to hear is, listen, yes, was predatory lending, did homeowners probably buy properties they maybe shouldn't have purchased, right. Being, sold a bill of goods. Who knows, Jose? We could sit here and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Bottom line is, what has happened since then? What have they done to correct these problems? And they're doing nothing, no accountability. And that's where people are angry. If you or I went out and altered documents, or we, took a contract and we breached a contract, we're very liable. Especially right. if you're licensed, if you're an attorney, if you're a real estate agent. I mean, you could go to jail, you could go to prison.
Now, this is across the board, across the United States, not just in the state of Florida.
Of course. I mean, this has been going on all over. So when we went, I met people from, non-judicial states to judicial states to, some state attorney generals starting to back up Minneapolis, for an example. Minnesota, there was a big group there. There's a nice little movement that's starting to happen. And it's gaining speed, but nobody's really listening. It's really frustrating.
Now, turning to our own state for a second, our illustrious, soon-to-be ex-governor.
God be willing. Let me throw that one in there.
Only kidding.
Yeah.
He just signed a bill into law.
HB 87, this is one of the reasons I felt very compelled to go to D.C.
Okay.
I went to Capitol Hill. I marched in to see some of the people that represent our state. That was quite interesting, maybe another topic one day. But yeah, HB 87, I mean, it says it right here. I just pulled it up.
Okay.
It's going to allow these banks to speed up the foreclosure process.
So we're talking the rocket docket.
The rocket
system.
dockets.
We're naming it something different now?
Yeah, well, yeah. We just disguise it behind curtains.
Okay.
It is going to speed up foreclosures. And, we don't need more people on the streets. What we need to do is reform what has happened in our state. We're the #1 state in our country for foreclosures.
Okay.
And this HB 87 that was just signed by Rick Scott, it's going to cause some issues. But luckily, we've got people who are ready to go fight. We've got some people that are going to bring it to the eyes of being in a legal battle because it is very unconstitutional.
Okay.
It really is. If you look at this bill, it's very unconstitutional.
So let me get this process. It's signed into law, now exactly what happens to that point?
What happens is they've got all these cases, let's say over 700,000 cases on the dockets, okay? Basically what they're going to do is they're just going to pick and choose, well, this one needs to go to fast to foreclosure sale date, 60 to 90 days. How do you know if a family's been trying to work with the bank? When we know they're doing bad practices. If they weren't doing bad practices, they wouldn't have to be paying out billions of dollars to people that they've harmed. So now they don't give a chance, they don't have a right to defend themselves. So that's what this HB 87 bill is going to be about. So anybody out there, I'm going to tell you in the audience, seriously, and this is the time I'm going to put my foot down and go, you really got to pay attention. If you are out there trying to fight this on your own, with this HB 87, don't do it. Really, seek out some help, because within 60 to 90 days, you may be evicted from your home. It will go that fast.
Some people can't afford a lawyer. I mean, they're already stuck behind the 8 ball. What do you suggest?
I wish I had more to say. Some of these homeowners haven't been making mortgage payments for a long time. I mean, in the back of my mind, I would think they would try to save, but I know that doesn't always happen. But, it is what it is, Jose.
Are lawyers trying to work with these people?
They try to work with them. I mean, I know Ann Pellegrino and some of the law firms that I've done work with, they do try to work with them. They don't want them on the street either.
Okay. Tell us how to reach you.
Glenda,
how to get that help.
How to get that help. Glenda Chauncey, you can call me directly, 407-738-9889. I do free consultations along with attorneys. We sit with you. There's no fee for that. So again, Glenda, 407-738-9889.
Now, if I called you out of state, will you still refer me to somebody?
I will refer you.
Okay, so we're talking about across the United States. If you're hearing this on delayed tape, wherever it is, we can get you that help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, one of the reasons going to D.C. and protesting with a big group of people, it was great. Really good connections for everybody.
It's scary just to think about it. And in the news recently, there was a guy who actually paid his mortgage ahead of time. That's right. And they still wanted to take his property.
I don't know how much time we have, but I got to tell you that
we have about 2 minutes.
Okay, let me tell you what happened. I'm sitting in this group of over 600 people, and they start asking people, did you lose your home? Stand up. And they started doing these questions. Right now, I've been helping families with modifications successfully, as you know. I've helped a lot of people. And one question was, for those who have been in permanent modifications from 8 months to 36 months, and you're now in foreclosure, please stand up. Do you know about 20% of the people stood up in that room? They're literally starting eviction processes and foreclosure process on people who did permanent modifications, Jose.
Wow.
Okay? It's scary, my friend. Really, really scary. So that guy he's paying in advance, it doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me now after knowing that these people stood up saying that they'd been paying. One girl paid 36 months and she was kicked out of the system. Kicked out for no reason. Made her payments on time. She was on time, not late, none of the above for the last, almost 3 years. And now they're trying to actually remove her from the home. So it's, sometimes it just blows me away.
This is about money?
It's all about money.
All about money, banks.
And I'm going to say this one little thing, because something I didn't even realize in the years I've been doing this. Do you realize when they go from one investor to the next? Remember how they'll all of a sudden they'll sell you again? Do you realize all these defaulted loans are still on the market making money? even though you're default, they're still being traded on the stock market.
Somebody's making cash.
Of course, trillions of dollars are being made.
And it's still being
bundled up.
And
I literally have somebody 7 times now. 7 times they've been transferred over to another investor, to another servicing company.
That's scary.
It's scary.
Well, on that note, if you give us a call, we'll try to get you the help to slow down the process, okay? Well, Glenda, thanks for coming in. We've reached the end of our time. We're gonna, of course, have you come back and repeat these segments for us, because without you, God knows what will happen.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. Next week, same time, same channel. I'm Jose Miranda. Again, Glenda Chauncey. We'll see you soon.
We're in hard times, and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
The Christian Star began as a newspaper whose news focus of interest was of Christians, but it's become a lot more than that, covering issues of concerns to our community, covering issues of national, state, local, and political agendas that affect us today. The Christian Star is available free at any 7-Eleven store. So pick up your copy of the Christian Star Bilingual free at 7-Eleven today.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que en la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.
¿Necesitas un abogado? Detente. No contrates un abogado simplemente por haberlo visto en un anuncio comercial. Lawyers Consumer Directory te ofrece la solución para todo tipo de problemas legales, tales como inmigración, bancarrota, divorcios, entre otros. Y hasta te ayuda a cómo contratar un abogado. No te rompa la cabeza buscando la solución cuando la tienes en tus manos. Adquiérelo gratis, sí, absolutamente gratis en cualquier 7-Eleven.
We're in hard times, and some of us are going to need a lawyer. And if you need a lawyer, don't just react to a TV commercial. Get a copy of the Lawyers Consumer Directory, which is available absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven store throughout Central Florida. The Lawyers Consumer Directory is going to give you real hardcore knowledge on how to hire a lawyer and a lot of information on issues like bankruptcy, foreclosure, and more. Get the Lawyers Consumer Directory. It's absolutely free of charge at any 7-Eleven throughout Central Florida.
Ahora puedes demostrar tu orgullo hispano mientras manejas en la carretera con la nueva tablilla o placa de auto hispana conmemorando los 500 años del descubrimiento de Florida por Juan Ponce de León.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana este año y harás la diferencia.
Solo 1000 se necesitan para hacerla permanente.
Su donativo ayudará a estudiantes con becas.
Nuestra comunidad se beneficiará con más programas y servicios.
Resalta nuestra cultura, nuestras raíces.
Demostremos que en la unión está la fuerza.
Obtén tu tablilla hispana en el Departamento de Vehículos de Motor más cercano o llama hoy al 321-277-0850.